tell you we got a lot of questions. So once again, we don't get to all of them. So just going to let you know that. But we're going to try to get through as many of these as we can. So I'm going to start off with Parks and Rec. Where are the 4 disc golf courses located?
This is a quiz. I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know off the top of my head. But they are on our website along with all of our other facilities. They're listed there. So please check that out. Sorry, I can't think of that off the top of my head.
I don't know where they are.
Yeah, take it away.
What's the process for notifying when classes are canceled at facilities?
So if it is if it's a drop-in program that doesn't require registration, we do our best to get the word out through social media and through our website news flashes. And so subscribe to our news flashes because that's how we send out a lot of information. But if it's a program you register for, that will go through like direct communication after you've signed up.
This one will be for DSS. What initial steps should be taken by families interested in foster care?
So that's me. I'm Jovetta Whitfield. I'm the Assistant Director over Child and Family Services. So if you or anyone else are interested in becoming a resource parent, because we call them resource parents now instead of foster parents, because that sends a different message and connotation that you are a resource to the agency, to the family. Can call 560-8092. That is our hotline for our recruitment line, I should say. And someone will take your information and they will tell you what you need to do. So we usually have interest meetings where you can come and hear a little bit more about the program, what it takes to be a foster parent, and hear a little bit more about the youth who are in care. And then if you decide to move further, of course, there will be a 30-hour training that you have to take before you can become licensed. And that would be anyone who's 18 years or older in your home will have to go through that process, because the 18-year-old is considered to be an adult.
This is another one for DSS. How in the world do you respond to 3,181 reports received? How quick is the response time for each report? And how do you manage investigating over 1,000 that are accepted as valid cases?
So that number was for the whole year, a 12-month period. And those are calls that come in, and we have a dedicated intake unit, and that's their responsibility during the day, is to respond to calls that come in from concerned citizens or professionals about allegations of abuse or neglect. And that's what they do all day. And then we have those, we cover after hours. So like right now, even though the agency is closed, we have after hours workers that are also taking those calls that they receive from police communications, and they'll contact us saying there's someone who has a concern, and we'll take a report. Now, as you'll see, those were 3,000 something calls, but we don't take all the reports because they don't always meet the definition of abuse and neglect that's been defined by the state and the federal government, by the Children's Bureau, I should say. So those 1,500, that's for a year. We have 5 units who are of investigators, and in each unit there's either 4 to 5 workers each. The state caseload is at least 9, so they can carry up to 9, but we carry more because we don't stop. If it's 15, it's 15 cases per worker and more, they're randomly assigned. And we go out and we have to respond. Abuse cases are within 24 hours. Neglect cases, we have 72 hours. And sometimes there are cases that are immediate, and that means when we get it, that means worker goes out immediately.
Derek, this one is for elections. It's a long one, so start. I admit I've thought about helping out at the polls, but with political polarization and changes in the process, I've been a bit hesitant or scared to do. How often do conflicts happen at a polling place? And what are some of the things that are in place to prevent those types of things?
So it's a great question. There's a couple of things to consider there. We have to be careful about law enforcement presence at polling places. to potentially violate federal law, which dictates an environment that does not include, obviously, intimidation. I will say in 2020, when we were at the height of, kind of a lot of vitriol and angst regarding the election process, we did arrange with our sheriff's department to do patrols around our polling places, not stationing themselves, but patrols, wellness checks. We also had unarmed security officers at sites without, specific security regalia on. But there's only so much we can do. Our emergency management department does activate the EOC, a light activation of our emergency operations center, to respond to incidents outside of our operational control. But again, we are very much limited. Our chief judges and judges have a responsibility under the law to maintain peace and good order in and about the place of voting. So that older gentleman or older lady about 60 or 70 years old or 80 years old, they're responsible for keeping you safe, and they do. They do it with vigor. They have the right under the law actually to deputize another person to act as an officer. So there are some things that can be done to protect you if you come out. We certainly are very responsive to it, and we do have resources to respond quickly if an incident arises.
This one was a popular question. 4 people asked this one. This is for you, Mary. What exactly is polls? Can you go a little more into that?
Thank you for people for asking that. So just recently, we started a staff advisory committee in our department, and it's an internal committee that focuses on staff engagement, but also connecting our body of staff to our leadership and to the people that make decisions in our department. So it kind of bridges a gap there. But it's kind of a two-way thing where it helps our leadership make the best decisions on behalf of what the department thinks or what representatives, people that represent the department think. And it also helps, them become part of the decision-making process themselves. So we can take, I am not technically on that committee, I facilitate it and I sort of represent the leadership team on it. And so I can take information from our leadership team and from the decision makers and bring it to this group and say, like, what do you guys think and what do you think the department is going to think? And take that back to our leadership team and vice versa. So it's really a venture to help build engagement, build mentorship, build kind of shared responsibility between our leadership team and the rest of the department.
This one's for you, Derek. Tell us more about the new Board of Elections facility, and why do we need a place this large of a place?
Interesting. So right now, in 2020, we were actually split between 4 facilities to execute that election. This room you're in, we sent out over 20,000 absentee by mail ballots. Room right down the hall, we sent out another 27,000. And then in the basement, at our current facility, we sent out even more. So we really operate under a very bifurcated system, which is a security concern with respect to elections and ballots. We've had the CISA, which is a division of the Department of Homeland Security that conducts assessments on the physical wellness of election offices across the country. They came and they did an assessment. They were very concerned about our facility and gave a very scathing report about the conditions that we were operating under. And so we, in all of our brightness, decided to take that report and scare the commissioners. Is this recorded? No, not scare the commissioners. We'll take that back. Commissioners have been very gracious to us. We took that report, presented it to the commissioners. We took them on some tours of other facilities, our warehouse, and they were able to see that we were in significant need of a space. They also conducted a space study to determine what we needed, and they came to this number, and so we found a vacant Kroger store, and that's being converted as our one-stop shop. Come vote, get all election services there.
This is for DSS. As housing costs in Durham continue to increase, are there any concerns about having sufficient sustained funding to support the programs such as low-income homeowners relief program?
Yes, that is, hi, I'm Meghan Russ. I am one of the program managers with our Aging and Adult Services Division, and I manage our rental assistance program. Homeowners relief is under Lee Little's management, but I can speak to that. We are always concerned when it's not a mandated program. We have to rely on funds that are either given from, we have to get it either there's like a grant that comes to us, or we have to present to the commissioners to request county funds. Taxpayer money might go towards some of the assistance that we receive, but when we're not guaranteed funds for our programs, then it's always a concern of what will the next fiscal year look like for us. So we're always advocating for the program for additional funds to make sure that we can continue the services that we've put in place at this point.
This is another for DSS. Does the Department of Social Services provide or assist individuals with transportation?
Yes. Can you repeat the question one more time?
Does the Department of Social Services provide or assist individuals with transportation?
Yes, so we have a program called Medicaid Transportation. So if you're receiving a qualifying Medicaid program, then you can be eligible to receive transportation for your medical appointments. But we do not provide transportation to something that's not medical related.
This one is for Board of Elections. How does or can the Board of Election support students at Duke, Central, and other universities in being able to vote in Durham or in their home jurisdiction?
Okay. So we typically, in larger elections, federal election, even numbered years, we will have early voting locations on campus at Duke and NCCU. The problem is students don't use them. So we've tried to work with organizations. We got a really good local organization here called You Can Vote that supports the Board of Elections really well in terms of getting the word out and trying to engage students and the general public in the voting process. So that's one of the ways, is we try to put a location right where they are to, kind of try to mobilize them to come and vote. One thing and one misconception I think about the Board of Elections is we are not a mobilization agency. We are not responsible for getting people to vote. We're responsible for making sure that you can. So it's a very important distinction for us. So obviously there's laws that allow, for instance, students that leave their home and let's say they come to Duke or NCCU, the law allows them to register in their college town so long as when they graduate, they do not have the intent on returning home. Now, how many of you knew what you were going to do when you left for college? I certainly didn't, so I registered in my college town. So I think the biggest thing that we do is try to make sure during even numbered years we have sites on on location at our colleges, and of course we're available to support any questions or registration efforts for students.
Here's a simple one for Parks and Rec. Does Parks and Rec have physical catalogs of events that the public can pick up at your facilities?
That's not an easy one because it changes. So we do and we don't. It depends on the cycle. We do have a guide, a brochure called Playmore Guide, and it's a comprehensive list of all of our events and programs that is published 3 times a year. So we have a January through May, and then we have a summer and a fall winter. We have published it online almost exclusively in the last year. We did print hard copies last cycle, and we decided due to lack in popularity and expense not to continue that this previous cycle. We will be printing this next January through May cycle in a limited quantity to put in our recreation centers to a few select organizations that really depend on them, and then to take with us to outreach events and things. So yeah, it has changed since I became manager, because we've been, ever since the pandemic, we stopped printing because everything was online. And so we realized there wasn't really a need to start it again. So we've ebbed and flowed with what works, what doesn't, but I think consistently it's going to be very limited. However, we still publish an online guide. So the guide remains the same. It is just, and we're actually trying to enhance the kind of usability of it virtually. But as of right now, we have like the full guide published on our website.
This one is for social services. What are some of the biggest hurdles or challenges you face in leading an effective child protection and foster care system?
The first one would be maintaining capacity, and that's resources. So having sufficient staff to be able to respond to those reports of abuse and neglect, and also having sufficient staff to manage those cases where children unfortunately have had to come out of their homes and we have custody. The other challenge and barrier we're facing are those youth who are coming into care. They are coming in with some significant trauma. And with that trauma comes also, unfortunately, some criminal behaviors and activities. And so we're having challenges with recruiting resource parents, because that is a significant that's a challenge and a heavy load for families who are willing to just open their doors. So those are some of the challenges and hurdles that we're trying to overcome. Now, I can't say we have done better in recruiting and maintaining staff, but the barrier that we're facing now are resource parents. And that's not just in Durham, that's also across the nation. We've seen almost a 15 to 20% decrease, and that's what we're hearing as the trend, the national trend, and decrease in resource parents since the pandemic. So if you know anybody who's interested, even if it's just to say, I'll do respite, call 560-8092. Raise hope, foster dreams, that's our slogan.
Okay, this one is another question for Board of Elections. How often do state laws change that significantly affect how to administer an election?
Elections are hard, very hard. Things change often. We've got two bills that have been recently ratified, SB 749, SB 747, that will change our landscape pretty significantly with respect to absentee by mail voting. Of course, we have the voter photo ID change, observer rights inside of precincts. It's pretty regular. If you went to the General Assembly's website and you started tracking the term elections, you'd probably see a bill filed every other day. Most of those bills don't make it to session law because folks can't agree between the chambers or within the same chamber or within the same party. But it is it's constant. On top of legislative changes, you also have policy changes, interpretation changes by our governing agency, which is the State Board of Elections. They promulgate information down to us through numbered memos and also rules adopted in the North Carolina Administrative Code. So memos can change previous interpretations if we have new attorneys come in. Legislation obviously can change how we do processes, and then it may take a long time to get the interpretation right of the interpretation of the law. So it's a challenging process, and the landscape since 2016 has significantly changed and has become significantly more complicated to execute while ensuring voters have, obviously opportunity and access.
One for Parks and Rec now. What safety security measures are in place to ensure people using park facilities, trails, etc. remain safe, such as lighting, emergency telephones, sirens, etc.?
So it's complicated. We obviously rely heavily on our police department here. We do not have park rangers or anything like that, so we don't provide security in our own parks that way. However, through design solutions, there's a lot that we can do, like lighting, keeping sight lines open, things like that. So our planning division does a lot of work with something called SEPTED, and it stands for something, but it's essentially like security through, or safety through design. And so they evaluate our parks, especially ones that get a high level of concerns or complaints against them for things like criminal activity or things like that, security issues. And they will go in and evaluate them for and propose changes that would improve the security. So that's something that we do a lot, and anytime we kind of redevelop or improve a park, that's something that we put into consideration. But again, we also rely pretty heavily on our police department and encourage people to not call us when emergencies happen, but call the police. You know, things happen in public spaces a lot. Unfortunately, that is a truth of our society. Public spaces, crime happens in public spaces. So parks and recreation departments play a huge role in helping to prevent that as well, by not only through design but by activation. So we try to get people into the parks to do things that are legal, and so we program and we have a presence there, and we do drop-in programs in places where people might not traditionally feel safe, or there might be a lot of concerns about them. We will take our, you know, fun caravan there and program that space and invite people to come participate with us. So we hold events in spaces like that too. So it's really about like activation and showing people that they're safe spaces to be, and showing other people that they are not places where they can feel safe committing crimes or doing things that are illegal, because you never know when someone's going to be there. So through activation and design are two ways that we really try to keep people safe and secure, and also feeling safe and feeling like they should not commit crimes or participate in illegal activities.
Another one for you, for Parks and Rec. Are there opportunities to volunteer
Yes.
at Durham Parks?
Yes, there are. Check out our website. We have a volunteer coordinator who gets group and individual activities together, basically by request. So if you're interested, reach out to us and we can come together on opportunities. We also will once in a while come up with our own volunteer projects and like advertise those to the public. So things like plantings and beautification projects and stuff. So yeah, there are always opportunities like that. Just reach out to us. We also have a Adopt a Park and Adopt a Trail program. So you can adopt kind of the beautification and maintenance and stewardship of parts of our properties with your groups or families, organizations.
Well, Derek, we got another one for you. This one's, I don't know if it's simple, but are employers required to excuse poll workers from work without issue? Or is that even something?
Yes, you actually cannot be fired for serving as a poll worker. So there is a legal provision for that. I don't know the exact citation right now, but I can definitely get that to you.
I didn't know that. Here's one for DSS. Part of it you've already answered, but it's about staffing issues. You know, what is the biggest challenge to finding new social workers?
So in child welfare, repeat the last part?
It just says, what is the biggest challenge to hiring new social workers?
So I'm gonna allow my other colleagues also to answer. Right now, I think it's just a desire to work in this field. It's not an easy field in Child Protective Services. Again, we're dealing with families and children who are experiencing trauma. And with that comes complexities of mental health, substance abuse, developmental disabilities, you know, medical conditions, medical concerns. And we're working closely with our local universities and other universities to be an area where we can train social workers. And so that partnership between the universities is key right now, so that we can grow the interest back into wanting to come into the field of social work, whether that's in child welfare or in aging and adult services. Anyone else?
Rhonda Stevens. I'm the Assistant Director for Family Economic Independence. We have some social work positions. One of the challenges that we faced, the work that we would do in working with individuals to gain employment is going out to help people find employment during the pandemic. Prior to that, we didn't have a situation in staffing, but just going out and working with individuals to help find employment. As things have changed regarding the employment market, we actually are filling positions because we're having more people respond with an interest of being in social work in that area. So if you know of anyone that is interested in a position in working with the Work First Employment Program, because as I said, that's helping individuals who either are receiving short-term cash assistance or they have received short-term. For some of you, that used to be known as the AFDC program, or the old cash welfare program. But we are filling positions. We have at least one we're filling. So if you know of anyone interested in that kind of work in social work, then we do have an opportunity open on the county's website.
Well, I'd like to thank everyone on our panel here today. We're out of time now, but we got through most. There's only a few left, so we will be sure to get them to get these answered as well.